Okay, let's begin. Let us all bring our palms together to make veneration to the greatest teacher we have all ever seen, the perfect one, the infinitely virtuous one, the limitlessly compassionate one. He is the fount of all wisdom and the one who laid down the path for all of us to walk steadfastly towards the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. Without him, there would be no teacher to guide us. He is the Supreme Buddha who attained the ultimate bliss of Nirvana without the support of anyone else. To that remarkable feat, we make our veneration today. And as we do so, let us also remind ourselves that this is not a mere token of respect or veneration. This is also our pledge of allegiance to the Noble Triple Gem, reminding ourselves that this is our purpose of being here, the destination which is Nibbana or ultimate happiness, the journey that we have to take which is the Dhamma, and the practice that we must all undertake on our own which is the Sangha. So with that in mind, let us bring our palms together and make veneration to the Buddha himself, observe the precepts, seek refuge in the Noble Triple Gem, and commence today's proceedings with that. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Are we or are we not there yet at a point where through the Dhamma you have begun to understand that it is possible that there are more than just human beings and animals in these 31 realms of existence? Whatever temperament the mind takes, whatever the mind generates as karma, if that is what comes back to fruition as vipaka, then quite literally anything is possible, is it not? Anything is possible. So I wonder when the day is that it's possible, or you permit me to invite the gods and the deities before the beginning of a sermon. It is customary. Anywhere else you go, they do that. But I have always treated you, how can I put it nicely? I have always maintained that we don't take anything for granted. And we have taken a very empirical approach to the Dhamma. It's always been a very practical one. I have never asked you to believe in anything I say just because I say it. Your devotion towards the Swamin Wahanse, the Buddha, the Sangha is a different matter. That's another matter. But right from day one, I have been conscious and aware that it is not just those who are devoted, those who have faith in Buddhism, who might come to these talks, either in person or online, but also those who look at the world from a very material lens. And to them, only seeing is believing. If they don't see, they don't believe. And that's okay, as long as you don't limit seeing to seeing with your eyes. Show me love. Show me love. Is that love? You struggle to believe in gods and deities. But when someone walks up to you and say that they love you, you believe every syllable of it. What have you seen? Do you accept the existence of demons, gods, deities, demigods? It's questionable. But hopefully through the Dhamma you're beginning to understand that, like I said earlier, anything is possible. Most people, they don't believe in life after death, but when their mother or father passes away, then every year they do some kind of merit and transfer merits. And then you have to ask them, to whom are you transferring those merits? And then they are speechless. But in any other context, they deny the existence of life after death. I also accept that there is no life after death of an individual. There is no entity that continues. So in that sense, yes, there is no life after death. Because death itself is a convention. And so is life. But in a series of chittas, and as each chitta creates whatever it's made of through its own actions, karma and vipaka, the principle of how all that works, you have now begun to understand that, because we've been talking about these concepts for a while now, that at some point we must feel that we are ready to make this opportunity available to others who don't always come walking into the sermon hall. But then there's a way in which they can be invited. And there are those who only attend upon invitation. So there has to be a day when you are ready for that. When you are ready, I'm ready. I'm always ready. But, I'm always very careful at the same time that there may be from time to time individuals who will join us who are pretty skeptical about such things. And I don't want to put them off the Dhamma. That is where I have always been very careful. I don't want to put them off the path of Dhamma. Because if your skepticism gets the better of you, I remember once I said, don't let your fallouts, right, in the eventuality or the unexpected or almost impossible, but in the eventuality that you have a falling out with someone else, don't let that stop you from coming to the sermons. Do you remember? Actually, it was in this very room we had that talk, I remember. The last time we were here, I gave you that friendly piece of advice. And at the same time, it's also important to bear in mind that from time to time you might hear things in these sermons which don't quite add up. It doesn't make complete sense to you. And maybe from your frame of mind, the acceptance of something like that is pretty far-fetched. And it'll take you a long time, or maybe at that point, the point you listen to it, you hear it, you completely think of that as bull. And you are not ready or willing to consider, even consider that such is a reality. To such individuals, I have to ask this question. When you walked in here the very first day, you thought you were coming in here. But then you sat down and you started listening to the sermons. Now you realize that it wasn't you who was coming here in the first place. It's just a mind and a body. Where's the you that started coming to these sermons? See, the very thing that you knew for true, the very thing that you knew that you could rely on, what was that? Yourself. The day that you have been proven that yourself itself is a lie, then from there on, how can you believe whatever your mind tells you? How can you take anything your mind tells you for granted? How can you take it for granted? Right? So, based on that alone, ladies and gentlemen, we need to be a little bit more open-minded. This is not for everyone, because I know most of you are And most of you are probably wondering why we don't do the Devaradhana. Probably people are wondering that. But I'm only explaining myself. I'm explaining myself because I want this sermon to be as inclusive as possible. Is this sermon for Buddhists? Is this talk for Buddhists? Does it say on the banner, exclusively for Buddhists? No, it's not for Buddhists. When the Buddha gave his first sermon, how many Buddhists were there? There were 5 human beings. How many of them were Buddhists? None. So who is it for? Non-Buddhists? It's not about that, is it? If I did a lesson in physics, who is that for? Buddhists? That's the science of how the world works. This is the science of how the mind works. Don't be fooled by the fact that I come clad in a robe. The truth is, scientists of the mind typically come in robes. Typically. Not always, but typically they come in robes. So I am not a monk. I adhere to the code of conduct of a monk, but I'm not a monk. If someone would come up to me and convince me, right? If someone were able to convince me that the path to attaining ultimate truth, ultimate realization, ultimate bliss, and the path to ultimate wisdom lay outside of a life in which I have to bear robes. If they were able to convince me that it lay in a life outside of the robe, I would disrobe now, not tomorrow, now. I'm not attached to the robe, but I want the truth. Because it is not the robe that sets you free. What is it? The truth sets you free. So why do I come in a robe? It is because it has given me an environment in which I can make the truth my daily bread, so to speak. It is my philosophy. It is my lifestyle. Everything I do, I can see truth in it. And that is a life that I'm encouraged to. And also, this institution that is the monkhood enables me to open the path to many others. If I came clad in a pair of trousers and a shirt, and I had a plate with me, and I went out, do you think people would offer me anything? Most likely not. They'd look at me and go, if your arms and legs are working, right? If you're mobile, if you're fully functional, why don't you go earn a living for yourself? Coming here to beg from us? But unlikely that a Swami Nwanse should hear such a thing. Unlikely. Although it has been said in the past. I have heard such in the past. Not personally, but there are others who have heard such and they have shared with me. If these monks, they can work for themselves, why can't they do it instead of coming to us begging for our food? That's because people don't understand. People don't understand that this is more giving than taking. Because they don't see, because they only believe what the eyes see. That's the thing. That happens, ladies and gentlemen. That happens. How do you know that your mother is your mother? Did you get a DNA test done? No, but you believe that, right? Right at your core, you believe that she is your mother. You trust. But you've not had evidence of it, except for the fact that she calls you, my dear child. So how do you know? That's the thing. People always look for scientific evidence where it hurts them the most to go looking for it. But in other matters, they are simply happy to accept whatever people tell them. So I tell you, there are so many things, ladies and gentlemen, that the naked eye doesn't see. that your ears don't hear. Just because you don't see it, just because you don't hear it, just because you don't sense it with your 5 senses, does not mean that it does not exist. That's why I asked you, what is love? How do you show love? A bunch of roses is not love. Then those florists, flower shops, those places are full of love, right? But go talk to the shopkeeper on a bad day. If he's feeling stressed, where's the love? So a bunch of roses is not love. A box of chocolates, is that love? That's not love. A necklace, that's not love. A diamond, love, ladies? That's how they got you. You fell for it because you thought that was love. But you know that love is true because you can feel it within you. Because you can feel it within you, you take what someone says for true because you have trust in them. I'm offering you something even better than that. Don't just trust me. Don't just trust me. See, open your eyes and see. Look at the Dhamma and see how the Dhamma can so beautifully and so elaborately and so eloquently explain these phenomena. What is happening with you? Why your mind does certain things that it does, and how come you have regrets about the past, and how come you have hope for the future? What brings all these emotions within you? Why you feel angry? Why you feel jealous? Why you feel lust? Why you feel terror? Why these emotions take over you? You're beginning to learn about yourself through the Dhamma. So then expand your horizons, ladies and gentlemen. There's so much more out there. It would be foolish to think that only what you can see with your naked eye is what exists. So once again I say, there has to be a day where we are at peace such that we can invite others to come along and listen to these sermons. Some of them don't come unless you invite them. It is like a good visitor. Good friends, they don't turn up. I mean, not the closest friends. They just come and knock on the door, right? Or when you come home, you see they're there on the sofa. But that's when they become best of friends, pretty much part of the family. But then others who are, let's say, acquaintances, not so much friends, but acquaintances. Even some of your close friends, right, they still announce their arrival before they show up. And usually they don't just show up unless you invite them. So if human beings are so, then deities, gods, others, there are many others who, upon your invitation, would be more than happy, would only be more than happy. And with them they bring their blessings. The Buddha once says that humans are superior in wisdom, but the devas are superior in material possession, in color. They are superior in that regard. But what we need for Nibbana is wisdom. Therefore, we haven't drawn the short straw. You're not to worry about that. You don't have to become a deva to attain Nibbana. Some schools of thought think like that you have to die, become a deva, and that is when you can attain Nibbana. Others say that devas have to die and become human beings before they can attain Nibbana. Neither of these things are true from what I understand the Dhamma, because all you need is wisdom. If you have wisdom, if you have noble association, if you listen to the Dhamma, and if you have the intelligence to work out the Dhamma. If you usually have wisdom, then you can't be lacking in intelligence. These two things typically tend to come together. Not always wisdom. Some people have intelligence but not wisdom. That is to be found sometimes. But where you have wisdom, you typically also have intelligence, because to have the wisdom faculty itself is a great achievement, because it only comes with a tremendous amount of merits. So if you have the ability, the psychological ability to look at things through insight. Not be fooled by what you see superficially. And I don't mean this in a material sense. When I say and explain anicca, dukkha and anatta, if they actually make sense to you, beyond just an explanation, if it can become your operating system, if your mind can begin to look at the world through anicca, dukkha and anatta, then you're probably blessed. You're probably blessed by your own merit power with the faculty of wisdom. There's no point going and asking anyone whether you have wisdom or not, or whether you have the ability for wisdom. There's no point coming and asking me. I don't have a test to give you to check whether you have the power of wisdom. I can give you an IQ test, but I can't give you a wisdom test. So, whether we have wisdom or not, the best we can do is carry on doing merits and carry on listening to the Dhamma, applying the Dhamma, and fingers crossed that we were born with wisdom. If you are not born with the faculty for wisdom, then hopefully in your next life you will be born with it. It is called a trihetuka pratisandhi. But it's very difficult to judge even for yourselves whether you have the faculty of wisdom or not, because you never know when wisdom might be triggered. But let's all be hopeful that we have it. Let's be confident that we have it, and let the Dhamma work its magic. Because we must not be in any doubt about that. Don't be in any doubt about anything you do. When you start something, when you're doing something, don't be in any doubt whether it will be successful. Because that self-doubt will end up being the reason why you are not successful in it in the first place. It is not because everything else is not in your favor. But if you approach anything with a bit of doubt, with a sense of self-doubt, that will be the reason why it won't succeed. Nothing else. Because you won't exert yourself 100%. Because you will always be reticent. You will always have a foot back. So let's all be confident that we were born with wisdom. We can do this. The Dhamma is able to be made sense of. Right? It is intelligible. And so always approach the Dhamma with that frame of mind. But one of these days we have to invite the Devas. They are long. That invitation is long overdue. How many sermons now? Others, one of these days they'll come and have a word with me. When are you going to give us the chance? And some of the things that we talk about here, it blows my mind. Quite literally. Not literally, but it's quite something. Because this is the collective power of our merits. I'm amazed by some of the things that we discuss when we meet on a Sunday morning. I'm amazed on Saturday afternoons right from start to end, when Guru Hamdro starts speaking, that even in here, there have been those spectacular moments where I myself have confessed, as I'm sure you've heard from me, where did that come from? And it's amazing. And it convinces me that collective merit power always beats one man's power of merit. So that is why I always encourage you to do merits. It's not just for your sake, but also for mine. I'm piggybacking on your merits. So don't just keep your merits for here. Earn as much merits as you can while you're out and about. Look after your parents. Right? What else do you have to do? Do good things. Do good deeds. Doesn't cost you anything. Doesn't always cost you anything. It doesn't have to cost you anything to do good deeds, because good deeds are done where? Here, or here. It's in the heart. So fill your heart with goodness, always, all the time, every time. Look at all the good that's going on around the world. Don't ever ask yourself, where is my part in this, or where is my part in that? Don't look for your part. Looking for your part is your curse. Don't do that. Just rejoice in all goodness. Someone has something that you don't have. Rejoice. You have something that someone else doesn't have, rejoice. You both have it, rejoice. Neither of you have it, still rejoice. That you don't have to take care of it. Because everything that you have to maintain, right? So rejoice that you don't have to maintain it. Neither of you have to maintain it. Always have a rejoicing mindset. Check within yourself. Do you always have an open heart? Is it always open to goodness? Does it always resonate with goodness? Is it always there to absorb, to witness, to experience goodness? Not just for you, not for you and your family, not me and my family, right? You have to step outside of that boundaries. Me and my family boundary. It's a very small place for you to be. Don't get yourself stuck in there. Don't get yourself stuck in there, me and my family. It's a very, very, very small place for you to be. You have so much more potential, so much more capacity. You are capable of so much more. Jesus Christ loved the whole world. But he was born to one mother. His family, if you'd asked him, he would say, is the whole world. Every man and beast. And the Buddha was the same. If you asked him, he was born to one mother. His mother died 7 days after his birth. He was born to one father. But if you asked him, who, sir, is your family? He would say, the whole world is my family. The whole universe is my family. So it's time that you stepped outside your home or your own family and start to see how the whole world is your family. The Dhamma is here to help you do that. Don't despair. It's not something you just have to do with resolve and determination. It's not so. Through your understanding of the Dhamma, as you begin to understand that these individualness that we experience is only because of ignorance. We are not so individual as we think we are. We are all the same. Once you begin to understand that, ladies and gentlemen, then we all become one. So that is what the Dhamma is for. Okay. So let's talk the Dhamma. Let's discuss the Dhamma to help you make further progress on that journey. I have a question to get us started with. I'm going to ask you a question and I want you to think about the answer to this question. Okay? Think within. Think deeply and think within. What is the answer to this question? This question is a simple one. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? By this point, you will have introduced yourself 1,000,000 times. You go back when the first day of school, when you picked up the courage to come in front of the class and introduce yourself. Remember that day? And you must have done that every time you changed school, right? You would have had to do that. First day of school or whatever, go in. Hello everyone, my name is, and you say something. I come from, and you say something. My parents' names are, and you say something. And my favorite subject or something, you say something. My hobby, you'd say something. And then you say, I have a pet, you say something. My favorite color, and you say something. My ambition is, and you say something. And then you say thank you, and you walk back to your seat. So when you were younger, you would have done it so. But age is something that always keeps us on our feet. So time keeps us on our feet. And then we grew up. And then it came to a point where you left school. Then it was your opportunity to go and introduce yourselves to other groups of people, to other social circles. Maybe you've taken memberships in various clubs and societies and associations. And in those situations as well, you would have had to introduce yourself. So then you would have said by that point, perhaps if you had graduated, you'd have said, my name is this. So the names stayed the same. But you would have said, I am a graduate in this so-and-so field. These are my newfound interests. I'm working on this research. I come from this part of the country, right? And you would have given your spiel. And then carry on. Again, you grow up, mature, and then you settle, get married, then you become a husband or a wife. And then when you introduce yourself again, you say, hello, I am Mr. or Mrs. and so. I come from this, I come from that. And your story continues. Then one day you become a mother or a father. So then another piece of information gets added to your biodata. Then you say, I am this, I am Mr. Mrs. and I am the mother or the father of one child or two children or three children and so on. Again, you talk about yourself. If you carry on doing further qualifications, then you introduce yourself with that. So one day when you get your PhD, you say, I'm a doctor, and then introduce yourself that way. And other qualifications, you do the same. When you change jobs, and you build up your career, professional qualifications, you talk about those things. If you win other accolades or awards, you talk about those things. So I think you know the drill. Wherever you are asked to introduce yourself, there's so much that you can say about yourself. So much so that if I now asked you, if I gave you, let's say, 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the person sat next to you. That's a thought. I know one question you'll ask me, Swaminatha, do we only get 2 minutes? Because you'll have so much to say about yourself. It all depends on how open you are and you can be to your neighbor. Am I right? So there's so much you can talk about yourself. Because you have so much you know about yourself, you think that is all part of who you are. You think all of that is part of who you are. It's part and parcel of who you are. See, if this is all part and parcel of who you are, what about who you were in your previous life? Let's assume for a moment, I hope you're all okay with that there was a previous life, right? So what about all those things you were in your previous life? How come you gave all that up? Why didn't you carry that across to this life? Why did you decide to leave everything, man? I mean, you might as well have just brought everything along, right? So your qualifications from your previous life, why didn't you just carry them forward with you? So if you had a PhD back then this would have been your second PhD. Wouldn't that be nice? So if you had a wife in your previous life, so why don't you just carry all that with you? So I have to then ask you this question, a slightly different question. Is that who you are? Or is that who you think you are? You might wonder whether there's a difference in the question. Is there actually a difference in these two things? The answer is yes. There's a difference in these two things. One is who you are. The other is who you think you are. Let's take one example. How old are you? And you have an answer. Don't have to all shout it out. Nothing like asking a lady her age, right? So you don't have to answer it out loud, but you have an answer to that. How do you, are you certain? How certain are you that that is your age? If I ask you that question, the answer might be, Swaminatha, but I have a birth certificate. Okay, who wrote your birthday on the birth certificate? Did you do that? No, someone else would have printed it on there. How can you trust that they've got the right date? What if they'd missed it by one day? or two? You'd be none the wiser. How would you know? What if you were swapped with another child at the hospital? Has happened, right? So what if that had happened? Then, because and I ask you, who's your mother, who's your father? You'll say again, see, Swaminathan, on the birth certificate, it says my mother is this person, my father is that person. How do you know for certain? Is this actually who you are, or is this something that you know about yourself? This is all just data. Pieces of information that you know about yourself. In other words, it's a bit like this. This is you. And then there are lots of pieces of information, like name, age, parents, siblings. How do you know your brother is actually your brother? How do you know? That's just a piece of information. Someone told you so. Prove to me that you were never, or that you could never be lied to. If you can prove to me that you can always see through a lie, okay? Therefore, you were never fooled by a lie. You can always see through a lie. If you can convince me that you can never be fooled by a lie, I'm happy to accept that these pieces of information that you have got from someone have always been true. But you know well and truly that there are plenty of times in life that both you and I, right, we have been fooled plenty of times. Liars get us so easily. We are so gullible, so naive, aren't we? Who here has never been fooled? Well, there you go. Right? We've all been on the receiving end of a lie. We were fooled, and we thought they were telling us the truth, and we fell for it. Right? So that being the case, ladies and gentlemen, how do you know that these pieces of information that were also fed to you as just data was always true? How do you know that? Again, children. These are all pieces of information. Your qualifications. Is that you, or is that something you know about you? Let's say you have a PhD. Okay? Is your PhD you, or is that something about you? Which one is it? Something about you. It's not you, is it? Surely. You have a house in Colombo. Okay, 7. Is that you, or is that something about you? That's something about you. Okay, let's get more intimate. You have blue eyes. You have blue eyes. Is that you, or is that something about you? Is that you, or is that something about you? That's still something about you. Because if you had blue eyes, if blue eyes is you, then what about everyone else who has blue eyes? Are they also you? So anyone who has blue eyes is me. Can you say that? You can't say that, right? So then blue eyes is not you, it's something about you. So all of these things that are about someone can also be about what? Somebody else. Now we have an identity crisis. Let me repeat the point. Your name. Is there no one else in this world who has the same name? What do you think? I wish, right? There's every chance, right? There may be someone else the same name, even in this room right now. So, and you might even have friends, maybe at school or at the workplace or wherever, people who have the same name, right? Age, what about that? Is there no one who is the same age as you? If you don't accept that, at least take an identical twin. Remember the two sisters who used to come here? Yeah, same age. So it is not you then. Something about you. A dress. So you say, no, but that house Swaminatha only mine. No, you don't live alone. You have other members of the family, right? For all of them, it's the same address. And what about people who've lived there before you? People who will be living there after you. They will all have the same address. So that cannot be you then, can it? What is it? It's something about you. Okay then. Parents. Are your parents you? Isn't there anyone else who calls your parents their parents? Sisters, brothers? Well, there you go, right? Blue eyes? Children? Well, surely you can't self-reproduce, right? It is always a biological affair. So, there's at least two people in this world who someone would call parents. So, therefore, every child is a child to at least two individuals. Siblings, you get the idea. So, everything that you say when you introduce yourself is actually just a piece of information about you, but not you. These abouts, this, shall we call it metadata or data? Let's just call it data, keep it simple. This data is also data for many other people. So then if you extract all of that, I'm still left with the question for you. Who are you? Who are you? Don't give me information about yourself, because that is not defining information. You cannot be defined by these pieces of information. Why can you not be defined by these pieces of information? Why? Let's build up this argument. Exactly, because there are many other people for whom these pieces of information will still be valid, right? Therefore, it is not unique to you. If it is not unique to you, then you cannot say that this is you. You can't define yourself by these pieces of information. Many others have the same attributes. So then that's not you. It's just stuff, data about you. So now I have to ask the question again. Let's dig deeper, find out who you actually are. Who are you? Who is this person? When you leave out all the other baggage, who are you? Sorry? Mind and a body. Okay, let's consider that. Mind plus we had body. Okay, so this is a proposed answer, mind and body. What is your body made of? So you're saying your body is you, right? Okay, what's your body made of? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, tea, of course. Tea, cake, pudding, tanivalalu, murukku, and that bottle that goes in the cupboard that only comes out when you have close friends visit you. That golden liquid. So all of that is you, huh? So if you are breakfast, lunch and dinner, are you the only one who had that? If your body is what you eat, okay, if your body is what you eat, and you're telling me this is you, if your body is you, then whatever your body is made out of, Has to be unique to you. But you cook the same meal for everyone at home, and come out of the time, what do? When you have aurudu, what do? We share. So you give a piece of you to everybody in the neighborhood, and they give a piece of them to you. Right? By this token, that has to be the case. If you have a party at home, then each of your visitors, what? They have a part of you. See? Now it fails, that argument. So then, if everything you eat is what your body is made out of, then again you will fail at this question, because you cannot prove to me now that your body is you. Because your body is also made up of stuff that is not exclusively or uniquely you. Yes or no? And then when you die, what's going to happen to your remnants? They'll put it in a gold casket. Or some kind of a shrine. They'll enshrine you, won't they? In a, what do they call them? Columbariums? Is that the word? What do you call that? What? A mausoleum. Mausoleum. Okay, what do? They put them in little caskets and keep them there for eternity. Or until you can pay the rent. Or they push it down the Ganges. Whatever way, that's what happens to your remnants. Before it gets to ashes, if they burn you, but if they bury you, then you become someone's, not someone's, but we talked about this riddle the other day, right? The most expensive dish. The plate is the coffin, yes, served in a perahara, served for worms to eat. So worms and various other insects and flesh-eating animals consume you. And parts of you become parts of them. So can that be you then? Can that be you? That can't be you either. So then we are going to have to ignore this one, aren't we? Your body is not you then. And if your body were you, what happens when you have a haircut? When you go to the salon, you have bits of you leave at the salon. What happens when you have a transplant? Is that now someone else in you? Or when you donate a part of your body, let's say you have 2 kidneys and you're feeling a bit ambitious, adventurous, you want to give one of your kidneys to someone, or maybe you're just feeling very generous, right? You donate a kidney to someone, so then that kidney is now in the other person, and maybe someone donates another part, maybe blood donation, we do that a lot. So all of that is part of your body. So that can't be you, because if that were you, when you take someone's blood, so if you have a blood transfusion in hospital, you walked in feeling very much you. After the blood transfusion, you walk out confused. Right? You must walk out very confused. Who am I? Because now you have someone else's blood in your body. That would be utterly confusing. So you see, your body is not you then. Now what are we left with? Mind. So is the mind you then? Don't let the question or the way in which I ask the question guide your answer. Okay? So sometimes I might throw a question at you. It might be a leading question. Lead you to a certain answer, but don't be fooled by that. Don't always be. Sometimes it's okay to be fooled by that, but don't always be fooled by that. Is the mind you? Shall we take out everything that is not you now? We've now established, right? The body is not you. Siblings aren't. Children aren't. Blue eyes, parents, name. None of these things are you. We are left with the mind. Is the mind you? Is the mind you? What is the mind? So, sorry about that interruption, but I'm amazed by your unity and camaraderie, how you are all for one and one for all. So for those who left the room to get your cars, soon after you left I asked the audience a question. What question did I ask? Shall we wait or should we continue? So for those who were not here when I asked that question, I want you all to know that the answer was, let's wait, Swami answered. That is what everyone said. Unanimously, that was the answer. Let's wait. Those who were in the room got to hear that, but those who went out, they didn't get to hear that. And I want everyone to know that that was the answer that came out of the Dharmishta Rajagiriyans. That is why the Dhamma will work its magic on you. Because you could have thought to yourself, you've left your work at home, you've come here because you want to make the most of your time. Right? And so with so many people who are going out to attend to their cars, it's going to take at least another 10-15 minutes. Why do we have to waste my time? Why waste my time? Huh? They should have parked their cars where they should have, not where they shouldn't have, whatever. Huh? And now they're going to waste my time. See, those thoughts didn't cross your mind. If it had, then all of these sermons that I have done till now has not done anything. We are all in this together. These are those times that test you. See, this was not planned. So this was an unplanned test. Or did we plan it? So everyone gets full marks. You have passed the test with flying colors. This is exactly what I want from all of you. Do you remember last week we talked about getting across the finish line? Remember that conversation we had? If there are several people running a race, yeah, but only one can come out first and get the cup, who should that be? Once you understand that what's going on in each mind is the same stuff, right? Then why does it matter who comes first? Who comes second? Who comes last? Because we are all, it's all the same. So then my child, their child, his child, her child, right? Oh, my car, his car, their car. None of this makes any difference. It's all the same. United we stand and divided we fall indeed. So, my salutation for your unity. Well done. Now I have something to go back and tell Guru Andru. Right, where were we? We were looking for you. So just a quick recap then. We started with attributes, personal attributes, right? So we went through name, age, siblings, parents, qualifications, academic qualifications, professional qualifications, children, and so on. And we tried to find out whether there was something that defined you, right? What is it that defines you? And we couldn't find it in them because all of those attributes, all of those characteristics are also available to others. So if others are not you, then those attributes cannot be you. They cannot be your defining characteristics. Yeah, so example we took was blue eyes. Let's take another example. Dark hair, brunette hair. What other color hair do you like? Orange hair, gold hair, whatever. What do they call it? Blonde hair. Blonde. Is that you? If that is you, then everyone who has blonde hair should also be you. So if everyone who has blonde hair is not you, then blonde hair cannot be you. So that cannot be a defining characteristic. Next we moved on to, so there was a proposal from the audience that was mind and body. So first we tackled the body, and what we figured was that the body is made out of the stuff you eat. Yeah, so everything that you take in is what makes you. And you've always shared a meal with someone. Nowhere is this more true than when a mother feeds her child. She eats and then the child feeds on whatever she has eaten. So how can that be you then? So none of this is us. The body is not you then. Are you happy with that? That the body is not you? Okay, so then we got to the mind. This is the big question. Is the mind me? See, the thing is, we always feel that we is felt in the mind. When you talk about something, when you feel yourself, which part of you do you feel it? When you talk about yourself, in which part of you do you feel it? Some people feel it here. In their bellies? Which part of you do you feel you? Your leg? Your foot? No, you tend to feel it in your mind, right? Wherever that mind is in this body, okay? Wherever it is in this body, it is in the mind that you feel you. So you can be excused, right? Reasonably, there's an excuse that you can be excused. You could be forgiven for thinking that the mind is you. And that's what most people used to think back then. They thought that the mind was them. And so there was a lot of talk, I think not even very long ago, in the recent past, people were talking a lot about self-development. See, when they talk about self-development, what are they talking about? Developing what part of them? The mind. Personal development. Mostly they're talking about the mind. They're talking about good habits, behaviors, right? Goal setting, ambitions and all that. Of course, part of it might involve working on their physique, but that's only one small part of this whole thing about personal self-development. There are many books written on self-help, personal development and all that stuff, and each and every one of them talks about what? The mind and developing the mind. So people think that the mind is you. So when someone hurts your feelings, which part of you do they hurt? When someone hurts you, either they hurt the body or the mind, but we've established that it's not the body now. So then which part do they hurt? When you feel you're hurt, which part of it is hurt? The mind is hurt. When you're happy, which part of you is happy? The mind is happy. When you feel good, you're having a good day, which part of you is having a good day? The mind is. When you're having a bad day, the mind is, right? So you could be forgiven once again for thinking that you are the mind. This is where we step into the Buddhist philosophy. Right? Here's where the essence of the Dhamma comes to light. So then, to work out this riddle, we have to look into what the mind is. What is the mind? Because if we have come to the point where the only reasonable definition for you is the mind, everything else we've now discounted, we've denied them because it doesn't work, doesn't hold water, right? This is all we're left with. Unless you come up with something else, like, I don't know, something that you cannot see or something that you cannot sense, like maybe there's a third, some kind of power out there, maybe there's a spirit out there somewhere, and that is you. Unless you're going to go with something like that, which is not physical, which is very intangible, maybe it's somewhere in the universe. Like if you start saying that is what you are, then we cannot continue this conversation because I don't know how to help you then. But if you're going to talk about the mind, which is which I said is where you are hurt, when you feel happy. Right? So you can't say that it's something outside of you. Because when you're happy, don't you feel it? When you're sad, don't you feel it? So then it cannot be something outside of you, right? When you're having a good day, it's something inside of you that feels good. When you're having a bad day, it's something inside of you that feels bad. When someone insults you, it's something inside that feels insulted. So then it cannot be something out there on your roof or somewhere else on the moon. It has to be something to do with some part of you. We've discounted everything else and now we are left with the mind. Okay. So then now start looking at what the mind is. If we can work out what the mind is, then it seems like we can work out who you are. Do you see the relationship? Do we see why we are now going to start talking about the mind? We are left here. The question we are trying to find an answer is what? Who are you? We've come to the point where we feel that the mind is me. So if we can study what the mind is, then we'll be able to figure out who you are. So then what is the mind? Let's see how much of you is in the mind. Now, using your knowledge about how the mind or what the mind is and how the mind works, which you have been learning through these talks, right, in the Buddhist Dhamma, how have we come to know a mind is formed? Before that, let me ask you this question. Do you still think that there's like one mind that was born on the date of your birth and then it dies on the date you die? You think like this long, huge mind that goes like this? And then this goes on for like, say, 85 years? Sorry. 120 years. Thank you. Are we still on that page? Yes? Are we still on that page where we think that the mind was born on your birthday and then it just lives like that and dies on your 120th birthday? No, we know that it is not so. What proof do we have that it is not so? Because it keeps changing, doesn't it? Keeps changing. It's not the same constant mind. Your emotions change, your ideas change, your opinions change, your thoughts change, what you see changes, what you hear changes. Right? So much about you is so fluid that it would make no sense to think that the mind was a constant entity. That is our personal experience, isn't it? It would make no sense to think that the mind was one constant entity. So there's so much change going on inside of us that it has to be something that is not constant, but something more dynamic, something more fluid. So this is where we refer to the Buddhist teaching and we realize that the Buddha teaches us that the mind is merely a momentary coming into existence of perception. A moment of perception is the mind. What is it again? A moment of perception. That is the mind. So whenever you perceive something, you must know that that is the mind in action. Whenever you perceive something, the mind is in action. So when do you perceive things? The simpler question would be, when do you not perceive things? When you're asleep, do you not perceive things? You still perceive. Of course you do. Even in your sleep, you perceive. And you don't have to always be dreaming for that. See, I'll give you one proof that you're also perceiving in your sleep. What happens when the alarm goes off? You are? The snooze button is what you're thinking. Now I know you're more disciplined than that, right? But what do? You are woken up, right? The alarm wakes you up. So for the alarm to wake you up, you must still be in perception mode, mustn't you? Because you don't know you're going to perceive the alarm. So it's not something you do intentionally. If it were something you had to do intentionally, then there would be no point in having an alarm. Does that make sense? It would be nonsensical to have an alarm because you have to know when the alarm is going. So you'll have to have another alarm to wake you up so that now you can watch this alarm and wait for it to wake you up. But that would be pointless because you are already up. So you see, the fact that you can be woken up by an alarm tells you what about the mind? Even in your sleep, it's in perception mode, or it's perceiving things. So dreams again is another classic example. You don't dream intentionally, they happen, so you can't invite dreams, although you might like to. Can I see that dream I saw day before yesterday? That was a wonderful dream. So then you can skip all those nightmares and just watch those dreams that you like to see. But you know it doesn't work like that. You can't pick your dreams pick, they pick you. So what does that prove to us? That perception happens even in your sleep. If that were not true, ladies and gentlemen, the perfect time to die would be what? Because if the chitta has ceased to exist, right, then the perfect time to die would be in your sleep, because you are not doing any karma, because there is no chitta. If no karma is done, then there is no rebirth, right? So the easiest path to Nibbana would be when one is asleep. Don't try that. It doesn't work because even in your sleep, you're still perceiving things. Okay? Are we clear on that? So then what is the only time where you don't perceive? Exactly. There's no answer to that. You're always perceiving. You're always perceiving. From the moment the first chitta was born, in that series, chittas have come into existence incessantly. In that series of chittas, right, chittas have come into existence endlessly, perpetually. Until the day that there are no causes for a chitta to come into existence. When such a day might arrive, the next chitta will not arise. That is what we call, what Nibbana? What Nibbana? That's called parinibbana. There are two types of Nibbana as we have spoken about in the past. One is the sopadisesa Nibbana and the other is the anupadisesa Nibbana. So one type of Nibbana is where the mind is free of defilements. The mind is free of defilements. No raga, no dvesha, no moha. These are what we call, or who we call, arahants. Then there's a time where an arahant ceases. So that series of chittas cease. No more chittas are born. So then we say that is a state of parinibbana. But the funny thing is this, you cannot say what is in parinibbana because there is nothing to put that label on. See, on this you could put a label, could you? You can call this sopadisesa Nibbana. How come you can do that? Because there is a chitta. There's a chitta on which you can stick a label and say sopadisesa Nibbana. It has attained sopadisesa Nibbana. On what do you stick a label and say anupadisesa Nibbana? What do you put that label on? Which chitta? There's no chitta. So you can't put a label on anupadisesa Nibbana. Anupadisesa Nibbana is simply a state where in this series of chittas which are free of defilements, there comes a point where no more chittas are born. That state of nothingness in the sense no chittas, we call anupadisesa Nibbana. But if you ask me the question, who is this that has attained anupadisesa Nibbana, you can't even say whether it is this chitta that has attained anupadisesa Nibbana. Is it this chitta that has attained anupadisesa Nibbana? Can you see the board from the back? Should I draw it further up on the board? Can you see them from the back? Okay. Is it this chitta that has attained anupadisesa Nibbana? What is anupadisesa Nibbana or parinibbana? The state where there are no chittas, right? So is it this chitta that has attained parinibbana? Is it? Why not? It's the next one. Of course. Is it the next one? That has attained Parinibbana. Not this one, the leading questions. The one that doesn't arise. That one, the one that doesn't arise. That's the one. You understand, right? So you can't put a label on what has attained Parinibbana. So did the Buddha attain Parinibbana? Did the Buddha attain Parinibbana? Yes or no? Now you are utterly confused. Okay, so let's talk about the Buddha for a second. Right, this is the Buddha before he became the Buddha. Meaning a mind with defilements. Okay, still a bodhisattva. Then comes the chitta that has freed itself of all defilements. Okay, so we call it the Buddha. Then you can give it the name, so far this is a Nibbana. So then the Buddha lives for 45 long years, right, rendering a yeoman service. And then comes the day where the last chitta arises and now it's about to pass away. So is that Sopadhisesa Nibbana? Sorry, is that Parinibbana? Has this chitta attained Parinibbana? No, it's the... Which one? Which one? The... Good, you're not falling into the pit I'm trying to push you into. Well done. You cannot say which chitta attained Parinibbana because Parinibbana is the absence of chittas. Okay? Alright. So, when you are 120, was it that chitta that was born on the day of your day of your birth that has lived for 120 years? So by this point it's getting very weak. Right? It's an old chitta. It's feeling very old, very fragile. Right? You mustn't scare. Right? You mustn't mess with this chitta by this point because you never know when it might break. Is that so? No, it's not like that. So what's really going on? That's what's going on. So if you can't see it from the back, these are just very individual moments of perception. That's what they are. Countless numbers of them. Countless. Countless numbers of them. So when you say you have lived for 120 years, well, this is what has happened. Now then, take each or any one of these chittas, because now we are getting into the realm of chittas. Why are we studying this now? Why are we talking about chittas today? We are trying to answer the question, who are you? Each of these chittas have an origin. The Buddha speaks of how a chitta comes into being. So these chittas come into being when the 5 sense doors come into contact with, 5 sense stimuli. When the 5 sense stimuli, or you could call it 6, because you have internal thoughts as well, which are not triggered by external stimuli. Right? So let's call it 6 then. 6 sense stimuli and 6 sense doors. What are the 6 sense doors quickly? Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind itself. And the 6 sense stimuli? Sight, sounds. Actually, it's wrong to say sight, because it is not sight that comes into contact with the eye, because sight is born, sight is the mind. Right? So sight doesn't come into contact with the eye, and neither does sound come into contact with the ear. Right? But for simplicity, we'll just call it, otherwise we just have to say energy and eye, energy and ear, energy and, just makes it all the more complicated. So let's just keep it simple. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch and thought. So these are the 6 sense stimuli and the 6 sense doors. So when these two come into contact, we call it phassa. Not the one you're sitting on, not that phassa. Phassa in the Pali is contact. So when you can't say, when your back, your bottom hurts, you can't say passa pacca vedana. Okay, you can't say that. Passa pacca vedana in the Pali means when there is passa or contact, there is vedana. That is what passa pacca vedana, not this passa, it's this passa, mahapranapa. So, this is passa, contact. What does pacca mean? Someone who has a tattoo. Is that what pacca is? Is that a pacca? We have lots of them at the monastery. That's not pacca. Pacca is cause and effect. Actually, what it means is it's a manifestation, or is caused out of, or is caused by. Passa, pacca, vedana means out of passa comes vedana. Caused by passa, you get vedana. So this is the relationship of causality. So the relationship between two things, where it's causality, you can say passa, pacca, vedana. So see, pacca is pratyaya. Out of pratyaya. Pratyaya is condition. Now when you hear these words, cause and effect, these are very common terms in your Buddhist study, right? Cause and effect. In Sinhalese, this is hetu. This is phala. Phala, not that phala. Then there is one more, pratyaya. These are the conditions. Conditions. So now in the laboratory, when we do science experiments and so on, there are certain conditions which have to be right for certain reactions to take place and so on. Sometimes we call it room temperature and pressure, RTP. So why room temperature and pressure? They are the conditions. If such condition is true, then this will happen. Yeah? So these are the pratyaya. This is hetu, phala and pratyaya. So when the conditions are right, then passa pacca vedana. That's what passa pacca vedana means. So vedana pacca tanha, tanha pacca upadana, upadana pacca bhava, bhava pacca jati. This is how you get what do you get? The dependent origination process. Dependent origination is what pacca means. Okay? So that's what pacca means. Dependently origin. They originate dependently. So dependent on avidya pacca sankhara, you would have heard, right? So dependent on dependent on ignorance, sankhara is born, is originated. That's what this means. So then, when these two things come into contact, now you have a moment of passa or contact. Out of that contact, you get vedana. Vedana is the moment that the mind comes to awareness that one combination of these possible combinations has occurred. That's the moment where the mind comes into awareness. So it's like this. You heard that? When did you hear that? Before or after I flick my fingers? After. You didn't hear it before I did it, right? So as I flick my fingers, you know what happens? So simple physics, there's a vibration, and then your ear starts to turn that into electrical impulses, goes to your brain, and then at the mind base, there's a stimulus that is interpreted as sound. So what happened when I did that? Sound comes into contact with ear, and as a result, the mind comes to awareness that something's going on in the external, something's going on in the world out there. That something can be perceived. It may or may not be perceived. It doesn't have to be perceived. So for example, what's going on behind you if you cannot see it? Visually you can't take any perception of that, right? What's going on behind you? Now I can't see what's going on behind me, but you can. Because it's in your visual spectrum, or it's in your visual field, shall we say. But what you cannot see is in my visual field. Right? So, they can come into perception for me, but what's behind me can come into perception for you. So, why is it that I cannot see what's happening behind me? What's not happening? What's not happening? Phassa isn't happening. That's why. Contact isn't happening. So sight is not coming into contact with eye. As a result of which, no awareness can be produced. No awareness can be triggered. So Vedana is not taking place. Because Vedana is not taking place, the perception process cannot run. So no chittas can be born right now in me that takes visual form of the objects behind me. This is common sense, but I'm putting it through the lens of Passapaccaya Vedana and Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Viññāna. Okay, this is not rocket science. We all understand this stuff, basic, simple stuff. So, whatever has come to Vedana is what's going to become perceived, or is what's going to be perceived. These chittas then, ladies and gentlemen, are those momentary perceptions, or those moments of perception. So then you can be assured that each one of them is a result of what? So, no, it's not a result of perception. This is perception. Are we clear on that? This chitta is not a result of perception. The chitta is perception. Where there is no chitta, there is no perception. If it were a result of perception, then perception could still exist without the chitta. You are the result of your parents. Can't your parents exist without you? If you are the result of your parents, couldn't your parents exist without you? They could, right? Then you could say that I am a result of my parents. But in this case, the chitta is not a result of perception, it is perception. Got that? This is perception. So if this is perception, this perception is a result of what? Phassa. Contact. So every time there's contact, there's one of these. Are we all clear on that? Just give me a show of hand if you're not sure on what we've just talked about. If that didn't make sense at all. Okay. Coma. If someone's in coma, they're always looking coma. That's coma. Which is a fitting explanation, I think. Anyhow, if someone's in a coma, it's difficult to say what that state of mind is. But it cannot be a state where there are no chittas. It's kind of like a very deep state of sleep. So, if someone dies in a coma, that does not mean they go to Nibbāna. I mean, that would be very easy to get to. I volunteer. I'll be the first to volunteer. Put me into a coma like any day. If that would be a fast track to Nibbāna, form an orderly queue and I'll be in the front of that queue. So, but that is not so. Even now, when you have someone's in a state of coma, sometimes the body still functions. So then there's still energy that is being manipulated around the body, right? And it's not something we have done a lot of research or study on, but it's an interesting field to explore. But what I can tell you though is, it is not a state where there are no chittas. Minds are still being formed. You might ask, well, how are they getting this phassa? If perhaps scientists say or doctors say that eyes don't work, ears don't work, there's no stimuli coming from those five senses. Possibly, but the mind's still there. Remember, there's always the sixth door. When you're in a deep sense of sleep, you don't know what's going on around you, but your mind still can be its own stimuli. Although I hear from people who have spoken to patients who have come out of a state of coma that they don't remember anything that had happened to them while they're in that state. That can be quite easily explained, actually. Assuming that what we understand is true, right? As that can be quite easily explained. You can't remember anything that does not either go into memory or that cannot be retrieved from memory. Now, if in a state of coma, your brain is only semi-functional. Now, as human beings, we are reliant on our physical faculties, which includes the brain, to remember things. Which is usually, when you die and you're born, you can't remember you can hardly remember anything. Right? So you get a new brain. You get a completely new system. So when you have a completely new physical system, your access to your memories then that's severed. You no longer have access to that. Then you'll have a question, how come some people remember? Don't you have it? Yes. So again, these are nuances that we have to find explanations for. Typically what I tend to do is I don't go looking for these explanations because actually they don't interest me that much. But as we start to discuss the Dhamma for the purpose of Nibbāna, certain answers come out. Unexpectedly, we find answers to some of these riddles. So as and when such answers come out from these talks or from what I hear, I will share with you. So for the time being, one thing I feel can be assured of is even when someone is in a state of coma, the mind is still working. So chittas are still being formed there. But they are not of much use if they had already attained at least the stage of sotapanna, right? Then, of course, we know that they will not die and go to the 4 great hells. But if you are a prutakjana while you were in a state of a coma and you die in that state, that's a pretty bad state to be in, because you have lost you have lost all ability to be put onto the right track. You can't even be reminded of your merits. Right? There cannot be any external stimulus, because from what we understand, when in a state of coma, you're indifferent to what's going on around you. External stimuli cannot interrupt. That's that thought process. So then you're totally at the mercy of your own thoughts. So if you assume for a second that someone in a coma is like someone stuck in a dark room. Just assume for a second, right? And it's a silent room. There's no one there. No one can hear you. You can't see anyone, and no one can see you. But you're in a pitch black dark room. I feel that that's a state in which you might feel a lot of fear. Especially if the mind likes to associate with someone and something, the mind is always lonely. The mind always feels lonely. Every time you feel that you are an identity, an individual, you want the association of someone, right? So I think, based on, this is only a best guess, so please don't quote me on this. This is only a best guess. I think in a state of coma, the mind feels very lonely and it feels a lot of fear. But those emotions are not stored in memory, or they cannot be retrieved from memory upon coming out of that state of coma. So it's not a state I would wish on anyone, of course, that goes without saying. But yeah, that's from what we understand, that is how a coma works. But these explanations, I might allow me to update them, revise them, change them in the future when new information comes to light. We don't have the privilege of having the Buddha here today, otherwise we would have gone and asked him. Right? But it's not a state that I think anyone would want to get into, and it's not something should wish on anyone. It's a pretty bad state to be in, if you ask me. I think only second to lunacy. Again, if the mind becomes lunatic, that's a pretty bad state to get into, because then again the mind is in a deep state of vexation, and it's an intense state of vexation, so intense that in each chitta there's a desperate effort to come out of a state of vexation by which they create an imaginary world in age chitta. And this is not just a sense of self like you and I do. It's not just that. It's that and then some. Just imagine how terribly vexatious that chitta, that series of chittas must be. Now, if you can think of what you have heard or maybe have seen, a person who's lunatic, right, with no disrespect at all, they typically go on talking about someone, maybe a mother who's lost a child, maybe a wife who's lost a husband, maybe a husband who's lost a wife or so on, right? Or maybe someone who's lost a material possession that they were so deeply attached to, and they just keep on talking about it. All day long they just keep talking about it. And sometimes they hallucinate. See, these hallucinations, these mental hallucinations, they're not actually visual hallucinations. They're mental hallucinations. These mental hallucinations are born out of the deep state of vexation that their mind is in. And not just once in a while, but constantly. That's why they can't make sense of the world in which you and I live, and that's why you can't have a meaningful conversation with them. Sometimes I've seen people who dip in and out of them, out of these states. Sometimes they're in it and sometimes they're not in it. Some of it can be helped with medication, if it's to do with brain chemicals and how the whole biochemistry works. But if it's deeply psychological, in other words, mental, if we are talking at this level, I don't know how you can help such people. Personally, I don't know how, I don't see a path yet to bring them out of that. But hopefully, let's keep our fingers crossed that we can eventually find through the Dhamma something that can trigger or jumpstart them, put them back into a state of sanity. When the Buddha encountered, what was her name? She went on to become an arahante, I forget the name. Who lost her child? Patachara, right? Patachara. And she was it Patachara? Kisa Gautami, yes, Kisa Gautami. And she was crying about the loss of her child. Her child was in her arms and goes to the Buddha and asks the Buddha why this child won't respond, right? And the Buddha says, "Dear sister, go find me some mustard seeds. Go find me some mustard seeds and I'll treat your child." So today as I read that story, I think Kisa was on the verge of going into lunacy. I don't think she was lunatic at that time, but she was just on the verge of it. She was on the brink of going into lunacy. And at that point, the Buddha didn't give her the Dhamma directly. What he did was, he bought her some time and gave her some hope. Because this is like an engine running at, when the engine revs to the point where it's got in the red zone. So imagine that when the mind is so vexed, it's in the red zone, and beyond the red zone is lunacy. So what the Buddha did was he brought it back into the normal zone, the safe zone, by sending Kisa on a mission to find these mustard seeds. So that bought her some time, and then she later came back and said, "I realized, Buddha, that you were giving me a lesson and I couldn't find any mustard seeds. So I realized that you wanted to give me a lesson on something. Well done." And then he preaches the Dhamma. So before that, there was no Dhamma that was preached. So no anicca, no dukkha, no anatta was preached before then. Because the anicca, dukkha and anatta would not have done anything for her. Do you recall, I always tell you, try and have a peaceful, a happy mind. A mind that is always in rejoicement. Is that a word? Or a mind, sorry? Rejoicement? Rejoiceful? You get the idea. That one. Right? So I always tell you, have a happy mind. Rejoiceful? Joyful, thank you. Joyful. Have a joyful mind. Joyful doesn't mean like jumping, dancing up and down. Not that joyful. I mean a peaceful, happy state of mind, right? Not too vexed, not intensely anxious, right? When you're in that state of mind, it's difficult to put the Dhamma in. It's like a bottle with a very small mouth. You can hold it to a tap or even let's say a fountain, but it's only going to fill by the amount with which it allows water to come into it, right? When the mind is deeply vexed, it's like that. Even if you have a huge vessel, but imagine there's a bottle, or there's a neck, that's why you call it the bottleneck. So the neck is so small, so narrow, that hardly anything can get in. That's the kind of state where Kisa was in when she came to the Buddha. But what the Buddha did was send her on an errand to find these mustard seeds. So when she'd returned, right, then the bottleneck had widened. So now there was more room, more space for the Buddha to start healing. What merits does is that it keeps that neck wide. When you are short of merits, right, your mind narrows. That's why I always say, keep a fertile ground. Talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Have a fertile ground. Anicca, dukkha, and anatta alone cannot do the trick. I think I shared this with you a couple of 2 weeks ago. Paramita is part of what you have to do, and merits is part of what you have to do. Rejoicing is part of what you have to do. Try and keep a happy state of mind, and merits help you do that. Right? That is to keep that neck, the neck of the bottle, wide and not narrow. Right, shall we come back? So these are those chittas. Each chitta born out of passa. So why are we having this conversation? What are we trying to figure out? Who you are. Okay. So if you then is a lot of these, if this is all that has happened, right from the beginning of time till the end of your time, if this is all that has happened, individual chittas that have come into existence because of passa, right? If the same sight comes into contact with the same sense door in two individuals, this is individual A, individual B. What brings about mind? Perception. Why is it called perception? Because it perceives. What does it perceive? It perceives this happening. This is an event, isn't it? Do you understand why I call this an event? It's an event. An event. There are 6 types of events. So all your life is actually 6 types of events. Although we have posters and flyers and we have 4 more types of events, and we organize events and we advertise events and we invite people to events, that is just on a superficial level, that may be true. But actually, there are only 6 types of events that take place inside of you. What are they? Sight and eye, sound and ear, smell and nose, taste and tongue, body, contact and body, or touch and body, and then mind and thought. So these are all the 6 types of events that can take place. So when one of those events occur, you get one of these. Then tell me, ladies and gentlemen, if the same stimulus comes into contact with the same sense door, right? Is this not going to be identical in both these individuals? What do you say? Yes. Of course. If the same sight comes into contact with the same sense door, okay, then you get the same chitta, same perception. If that is so, how can you say that this is A's chitta and this is B or this is B's chitta? It is neither A's chitta nor is it B's chitta. It is a chitta that is a result of contact. Take all the time you need to let that sink. Because you're going to go home today having realized that you are. We'll find out. Actually, what should really happen is you should step outside and wonder, I don't even have a house to go to. I don't have a house. Where do I go now? When you don't have a house, the whole world becomes your home. Do remember that. When you don't have a house that you call your own, the whole world becomes your home. Does that make sense? When is the whole world going to become your home? What must you do? Give up? Give up your house. So you can do that after the sermon. You know the sense in which I mean this, right? If you look at a house and go, that's my house, right? When the whole world could be your home, what you have done in your mind is carved out a little space in the whole entire universe and called that your home. See, these days, often you find monks who live in monasteries or in temples and so on, right? But if you go back many years, monks were not very stationary. They were pretty mobile. So we typically didn't tend to have my monastery. Every monastery was our monastery. But now we have ID cards. Because it's so important to prove my identity. So at the back of my identity card, it has my address. And on that it says Jetanarama Buddhist Monastery. So I have to have a monastery to which I belong. And the same goes for every monk and any other member of clergy. But if I take that conventional reality as an absolute reality, I can only be happy when I'm at the monastery. That means if my teacher one day says, right, you should leave the monastery now. Go travel, you vagabond. Go spread the Dhamma. Charata bhikkhave charikam bahujana hitaya, bahujana sukhaya, lokanukampaya, attaya hitaya, satta deva manusana. If the Buddha were to give me, or my teacher would give me that command, I must be prepared to leave. When I leave, now listen to this carefully, when I leave that day, if I feel that I am leaving my home, henceforth I will be a lost man. But that cannot be how it is if I practice the Dhamma. The whole world should be my home. The whole universe should be my home. So whether that is on earth, on the moon, on Mars, or wherever, in this entire universe, I should be able to feel at home. Can you imagine that state of mind? Just try and imagine that state of mind. Right now when I say home, what comes into your mind? You have a thing, walls, gates, right? Roof, your room. Now actually, even within your own homes, you have what? Your room. Right? You have your room, right? Inside your home. So your little one has his room, your girl has her room. Maybe you have a study room, which you call your room, which is where you like to spend most of your time. See, even at home, there's a room that you like to spend most of your time. Because that is the room in which you feel Zen. See, even your home is not your home. What have you done to yourselves, really? You have 6 bedrooms at home, let's just say. Imagine you have 6 bedrooms at home. But only in 1 bedroom do you feel at peace. Why did you bother building the rest of it up? Huh? Why did you invest so much time and so much effort and so much money and so many years of your precious life building up that palace, if in that entire palace only in 1 room you feel at home, at peace, you feel calm and settled? Isn't there a room that you lock yourself in when you get angry? When you used to get angry? Oh. You don't know, I know, right? When you used to get angry, when you used to feel really, right? When you feel tensed or stressed, and you didn't want to see anyone else, isn't there a room at home that you lock yourself in, go and close the door? No, you don't close the door. You don't close the door, you bang the door. So everyone should know that you are now in your Zen mode. Isn't that the room at home that you feel is your space? Look at what you've done. But when you paid the builders, right? You didn't pay extra for your room, did you? You paid for the whole house. But even in the house that you have built, with your own sweat, tears and labor, you still don't feel at home. No wonder then, ladies and gentlemen, that you can't feel at home outside your home. That's what I mean. It's what happens when you feel that you belong to something or someone. The same could be said about any other relationship that you're in. The same relationship that you have with your house, you have with a partner, with a spouse. You feel happier when you're with a particular someone, don't you? There's a particular someone with whom you feel happier, you feel at peace, you feel content. So with any other person, you cannot feel the same. What you have done is you have isolated yourself. When there's so much love and compassion and kindness and goodness in the whole universe, you can't appreciate that, you can't be part of that, you can't embrace that, because to you, you have created a small little shell in which you go in, and then you bring in all the people that you want in there, and you keep them all in that little shell, and then call it me and my family. This is what you have done to yourselves. In vain, ladies and gentlemen, in vain. Come out of that shell. Come out of that shell. But remember this as well. I'm not going to crack the shell on your behalf. Because if you crack an egg from the outside, what happens? Then you take a life. But if you let the egg crack from the inside, then a chicken comes out. Then new life is born. So I'm not going to crack your eggs, don't you worry. But I can tell you that you are all in a little shell. You have enclosed yourself in a shell, and in that shell, if you look inside with a little scope, you will see that there's you. I can see. And then there's your husband, and then there's your wife, and then there's your children, your mother, your father, your immediate family, and the things that you love the most. Right? Those are all packed nice and neatly in that little shell. And then lots of little eggs everywhere. This is what you have done to yourselves. Whereas a true monk, not a monk by robe and a shaven head, a true monk is someone who has embraced the entire universe. The whole world is my home. Then you don't have to feel so clustered, so isolated. How did we get there? A and B. Okay. So we have a chitta. Think about what I said, okay? Think of it on the way home. Why you have to live in this when the whole world could be yours. That's not to say, instead of going home today, go to your neighbors and say, I've decided the whole world is mine. I'm not suggesting that. Conventional truths must be adhered to, but you must not internalize them. If you internalize conventional truths, right, then you are in for trouble. Let conventional truths be conventional truths. You need to internalize absolute truths. It's a tricky one because you have to constantly live in convention, but living in convention, you have to internalize the absolute realities and the absolute truths. So this is what we learn how to do on Sunday mornings. How do you live in one world but exist in another? One is for survival. Okay? So don't forget that. So this chitta, which is a product of phassa or contact, if the same object or the same stimuli come into contact with the same sense door, then this chitta, does it belong to this person or does it belong to this person? Can you look at a chitta and say who it belongs to? Think about that for a second. Could you look at a chitta and tell me who it belonged to? Can you? Shall I ask it another way? Forget DNA for a second, okay? Just ignore DNA for a second. If I held an organ in my hand, assuming a heart, okay? Assuming a heart, I hold a heart in my hand and ask you, whose heart is this? Would you be able to say whose heart it was? No, because a heart is a heart. It's an organ that performs a particular function. The function of a heart is to pump blood. That's what a heart does. That's why you call it a heart. When you want to say that it is someone's heart, you don't just call it a heart, you say it's someone's heart. See, it's that someone's part that makes it belong to someone. But if you just call it a heart, it's not anybody's heart, it's just an organ that performs a particular function. What is this? It's a chitta. What function does a chitta perform? Perception, well done. Perception. Whose perception? Whose perception does a chitta perform? That's the wrong question to ask. Again, go back to the heart. For whom does the heart pump blood around the body? For whom does a heart pump blood around the body? You could put it in a very generic sense and you can say to the person in whom the heart is installed, right? It's in that person. But I mean, to whom and which individual, which identity does the heart belong to? The answer is, it's the wrong question to be asking because the heart does not belong to anyone, which is how you can do heart transplants. Because if a heart did a particular job in person A, and then the heart was transplanted to person B, what do you think the heart's going to do in person B? Be the kidney. What's it going to do? It's continued to be a heart. It's going to continue to be a heart. Meaning, to the heart it doesn't matter in whom it resides, in whom it performs that particular function. So if it doesn't matter to the heart, why does it matter to anybody else? If to the heart it doesn't matter to whom it belongs, whoever you plug it to, it performs its job. All in agreement with that? To whoever you plug in the heart, it's going to perform its job, right? So to the heart it doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate. If it doesn't matter to the heart, why should it matter to anyone else? In other words, why should anyone care about whose something is if it performs that particular function? What is this? A pen. What purpose does a pen serve? It writes. For whom does it write? It doesn't matter. Meaning it's irrelevant. It just performs the function of writing. Just as much as it writes in my hand, it'll do the same in yours. And what if it stops writing in my hand? Do you think in your hands it's going to start writing somehow? Like when you try and turn the keys, and when you keep turning it a few times, it doesn't turn, and somebody says, give it to me, man. Right? Convinced that it will work in their hands, but not in yours. Yeah. So do you think the pen's going to do that? I imagine I keep writing and the ink runs dry. Then if you pick it up now, say, move out of the way, Swaminatha, let me show you how it's done. You think it's going to start writing all of a sudden? No. So it's stopped performing its function, its useful purpose. Then it has done that universally, meaning it does not belong to anyone. Come back to the chitta again then. What is the function of a chitta? Perception. If the function of a chitta, if the purpose of a chitta is perfection, no, not perfection, perception, if the function of a chitta is perception, does it matter to the chitta? Just think about the chitta here, okay? Does it matter to the chitta in whom it performs that function? If you plug that and stick it in this guy, is it not going to perceive? If you plug that and stick it in this guy, is it not going to perform its job? Because on what is this dependent? Is it the person or the causes that leads to its origination? The causes. What are the causes? Stimuli and sense. So where there are the same senses and the same stimuli, or the other way around, you get the same chitta. That chitta does not care in whom it operates, because it is not here to do a purpose for a particular individual. Make sense? Then, going back to me flicking my fingers, this is a sound. You have a sense organ. Okay? So you heard a sound. One might say, Swaminatha, there could be individuals in this room who have maybe, let's say, a little bit hard of hearing. And others they may be less sensitive to certain frequencies. So then they would hear differently. Wouldn't they? Is a question you might ask me. Again, you're talking about the physical environment. If we were to swap your auditory systems, including all of your physical, the eardrum, the nervous system and all that, if you were just swap it with someone else in this room, right, he would do the same thing in you. Let's assume that someone has wax in their ear. Beautiful thought. Just imagine someone has wax in their ear. So now perhaps, they don't hear it as clearly as someone else. If you're at the front of the room, right, you can hear not only the sound coming from the speakers, but you can also hear me, this sound, the original sound. But whereas if you're at the back of the room, then what's going to be more prominent is the sound from the speakers. Now if we swap places, okay, let's assume we swap places. The same result that occurred when you were here is now going to be happening for the next person that came and sat where you are now. So do you see that the environment does not discriminate? These experiences, they don't discriminate. The who is irrelevant. There's no subjectivity here. It's purely objective. A chitta, ladies and gentlemen, I shall have you know, is an objective instrument. It's like a scales or a ruler. It measures. It's an instrument. If you get a scale and put something on it, does it matter who puts it on it? Is it going to give you a different reading? If you take a tape measure and measure something, if two people measure it, is it going to give you a different reading? No, because it's not subjective, it's objective. The chitta is the same. A chitta is objective, it's not subjective. Because, and the reason for that is, the chitta is not aware of a subject. That's the funny thing. It is not aware of a subject. The chitta, this is going to sound funny. Okay? The chitta does not know about you. Your chitta knows nothing about you. Take a moment to think about what I just said there. I'm talking about a pure chitta. A chitta that was just born out of the contact between stimulus and sense organ. Okay? Its job is simply perception, not perfection, perception. What did I say? Got it right this time, right? Its job is simply perception. That chitta knows nothing about you. Nothing about you. Nothing. That chitta knows nothing about you. All it knows about is the sound it perceived. Is that a blank face that you have looking at me, or a face of enlightenment? Come on. Yes. Do you mean about the perception that I am A and I am B? Oh, yes. So that's where we are getting to. But I want you to be clear on this matter first, before we get to then where does this individualization come from? Because the whole point of this talk is to help you walk away today having realized that your individualized experience, this person that you experience, is a complete and utter fabrication. It's a completely fabricated illusion, hallucination, whatever you want to call it. It's not true. It has you fooled. It's got you around its pinky finger. You've got to wake up seriously. Because if you take that as real, then you start building a whole world on top of it. And then your lives become incredibly complicated, as it has happened already. Unfortunately, you live to tell the tale. You know, to put it this way, don't be offended and don't be annoyed and don't be angry and don't all those things, right? You are the evidence that when the chitta begins to identify with itself, that it is a self, out of fabrication of a sense of identity, you are the evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that life becomes wholly complicated. You are the evidence. Just look at yourselves for a second. Think about your lives for a second. How complicated your lives are. Just think about the intricate web that you have weaved for yourself. You spend your entire day crawling on this web. Because whenever there's something that is triggered, like something gets caught in the web, and then there's some movement, then you have to drop everything wherever you are, and like the spider, it runs to that side and sees what's going on. Something juicy, something nice, something tasty. I have to do something about this. Because it's either food or some threat. Right? And then once you're there, you're weaving your prey with your, your web, right? And then something else is triggered on some other side. Then you come running down to that side. Isn't that how life works for you? See, even while you're in the sermon, if your phone goes off now, 3 times in quick succession, let's assume you have it on vibrate because you don't want to interrupt the sermon, 3 times in quick succession, you will take up your phone and you say, 3 missed calls from my daughter. Oh, have to see what that's about. You will pick yourself up and you will walk out of the room, even if the next word I say is going to get you to Nibbana. It might be that we're just building up to your Nibbana, and the next 2 words I say is going to push you over the fence to Nibbana. And today's the day you're going to become a Sotapanna. But if that call comes 3 times, and if that's your little girl, you have to get yourself up and walk out of the room and answer that call. Or ring her back. Why? Because your lives are that complicated. This is the web that you have weaved for yourselves. In the course of the week, just think for yourself. You don't have to give me any answers because I know those answers because I've been there, done that. Right? In the course of 1 week, how many little things do you have to get engaged with, embroiled in, and how many little things consume you. This thing, that thing, this meeting, office meeting, personal meeting, paying the bills, running around, running errands, attending to this person, that person, neighbors, relations, cousins, grandparents, and this and that, and light bills and phone bills and children's nappies and maids, all sorts. Life is so complicated. And then it's not just enough to live for the day, you have to plan for the future. You can't just plan for tomorrow's future, you have to plan for the next 50 years. So what might happen in the next 50 years? What if the rupee floats? Then you have to do plans, and then plans for backup plans, and backup plans for backup plans. How many plans, you have, there's not enough letters in the alphabet, right? For your backup plans, there's plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. Now you've done plan Z 10 years ago, now you have plan ZA. That's how complicated life is. Not can be, is. Every little thing that you have got yourself engaged with is a complication. Every little thing is a complication. Today, it's not just your health that bothers you. Your mother's health, your father's health, your sister's health, your brother's health, your child's health. If your children have children, if you're a grandmother or grandfather, you've just expanded your horizon, right? As if one family's problems was not enough for you. No sooner than your children got married, what did you encourage them to do? Tell me, will you? Grannies, yes, what did you encourage your children to do? You let them have 2 years on their own, at most. 2 years, let them be, enjoy themselves, have fun, whatever. After that, they have to make you a proud grandmother. Even, it didn't matter whether they wanted children or not. You had to become a proud grandmother. So then they had children. You were lucky that child was born healthy. Count your lucky stars. What if that child was born with a handicap? Just imagine if your children actually didn't want children in the first place, and you encourage them to have them, and then their child is born with a handicap. What do you think they're going to come and tell you? You wanted us to have it, now look after it. What are you going to say then? As Buddha, life, you win some, you lose some. Is that what you're going to say? See how complicated you make life for yourself because you want to feel special. It's not enough to feel a daughter, you have to feel a mother. It's not enough to feel a mother, you have to feel a grandmother. I don't know whether everyone has stopped there. Maybe there are some who want to go another mile. Yes. If you still have another 20 or so years left, right, then the next target is what? Great-grandmother. People make their lives complicated for no reason. They make their lives complicated for no reason, honestly. I've said this to you before. If you have enough, right, to make ends meet, if you have enough for a reasonably foreseeable future, because you're living lay life, so I can't say don't worry about tomorrow. That would not be practical for me to tell you that. Otherwise, you have to come into a monastic life. Then you don't have to worry about tomorrow. Every morning you wake up, pick up your alms bowl and go begging. You can't be content with begging. That's your problem. Your problem is you are not happy with a beggar's lifestyle. Because a beggar's lifestyle, a beggar can't be a chooser. You choose, don't you? The color of your furniture, you choose. The color of your tiles, you choose. The paint on the walls, you choose. Your pillows, you choose. The bedding, you choose. The house, choose. Which street, you choose. Which car, you choose. See, everything you choose. Me, You choose. Don't you know what you're going to be having for dinner tonight? If I asked you to think about it now, you would plan for it, and then you would know this is what you're going to have for dinner tonight. Right? So I can't ask about my dinner because I don't take a dinner. But take lunch. So after a while you're going to be serving arms food. Who chooses? Who chooses? You choose. You see, it's not enough for you to choose your own one. You now choose mine as well. Do you think I chose this color? You think I chose this color? Who chose that color though? You did. Do you think I chose this? Bald head? Who chose your hair? The style of your hair? You chose. See? With every choice, there's a complication. What if this? What if that? What if someone doesn't like it? What if someone wants what I want? Each time you choose something, you bring upon yourself fear, worry, burden, the burden of maintenance. This is why I say you make your lives unnecessarily complicated. If possible, ladies and gentlemen, do yourselves a favor. Seriously, do yourselves a favor. If possible, right? And if you're on the wrong side of 50, okay? If you're on the wrong side of 50, do yourselves a favor. I mean, for 50 long years now, you've been trying to build up a life the way you wanted it. I'll give you 50 years, okay, right? 50 years. Right? By many accounts, you've only lived half your life, right? Because your plan is to live up to 120. So there's more than half to go. Lucky you. So let's say you're on the other side, the wrong side of 50. If you're there, one half of your life you have already spent. I cannot say invested, you have spent on trying to build up a life that was a life of your dreams. If you are beginning to understand that you are just a chitta, which is the product of contact, and nothing more than that, don't give it unnecessary burden. See, this is the beast of burden. You are the beast of burden. How many things you have to carry on your shoulders, metaphorically speaking? Just the sheer weight of your family, your business, all your businesses rather. All of that you have got to carry on your shoulders. How many days do you get a peaceful night's sleep? How often do you get that? For some of you, the only peaceful sleep you get is when you come here on a Sunday morning. And I let you have it because I know that this is the... I let you have it because I know that this is the only time you can sleep in peace. Without being worried about who might come and bother your sleep or take something that is in your pocket. See how thoughtful I am? I understand. You must be exhausted. You must be exhausted. I can see when you try to force a smile on your face. I can see beyond the smile. I can see that behind the smile there are many frowns. I can see that you're trying to forcefully turn the frown upside down so that you can show a smile to me. But behind that smile is actually a weary, exhausted, hopeless individual who is looking for peace, who's looking to come out of their shell. I can see that. I can see that behind every smile of yours is a prayer for hope, a prayer for respite. You want to come out. I know you want to come out because this is not what you signed up for. This is where life took you because of the associations that you had along the way. You signed every dotted line that was brought to you. You shook every hand that was extended to you. You agreed to every deal that was offered to you. And that's how you ended up where you are today. Because no one did it with your interest in mind. Everyone did it with their interest in mind, and they didn't know what was right for them either. That's the thing. So they're no better than you, you're no better than them. It's just a fool's paradise. One fool fooling another. Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, think about it. I can speak like this because I was there. I have carried that burden on my shoulders and I know what that felt like. I can still remember the sleepless nights, the tight deadlines. I remember each and every one of them. At the end of the financial year, oh my God, how I would be happy to pay for them to extend those deadlines. When the auditors used to come in. So much pressure. There were days when my wife used to ask me whether I was married to my wife or to my work. Perhaps your wives ask you the same, gentlemen. Is that what you signed up for? Is that what your wife signed up to? What's that deal? Why do you want it? When to your workplace, you're just a number. Go ask your boss who you are. Go ask your boss, who am I? He'll tell you 91660. That's your staff number. So when you resign, what are they going to do? Close down the company? Are they? When you resign, they're going to close down the company. They're going to pack up and leave. No. You're going to be replaced. Like one tissue is replaced after the other. In a box of tissues, you pull out one, what pops out? The next one. Where does the one that came out end up? In the trash. And the next one? In the trash. But the one coming up, it doesn't know where the other one ended up. Because it was inside a box all this while. Dark, right? Cornered. Felt like I was in a box. And then it had this opportunity to come out. And the moment it comes out, it's like nice and bright. Oh, look at that. I'm the only one standing. And then you wait there until they come reaching for you. And you're, oh yeah, I'm wanted. These are the emotions that a tissue paper goes through. I'm wanted. I'll talk about tissue, you think about toilet paper. That's the better one. Even the toilet paper thinks, I'm wanted. See, they're coming for me. And you tell everyone behind you, hey, I'm the one who got the chance. Huh? And then there's another role in a pack. You guys, you'll have to wait a long time. But he doesn't know where the previous one ended up. It's a pretty deal. Fill in the blank. And you want it, don't you? That's the deal you want. You would like to be used like a tissue paper. You want to be used like a toilet paper. You want people to come and use you, exploit you, right? Get all those living years out of you, drain you out of all the energy that you were born with. This is what your mother fed you milk for, right? So that you could toil day and night, laboring to help boost up those numbers and the accounting books of those big businessmen and people out there to whom you are just a number. They give you a paycheck at the end of the month and they give you dreams. They paint these dreams and they put a nice glossy brochure, and they also put other people in the office who come and talk with you, and they maintain a certain lifestyle there. And so there's plenty of peer pressure. So you have to match, right? You have to be on par with everyone else. So if everyone else is going to Hawaii, you can't say you're going to Hambantota. It doesn't work like that. Is this what your parents wanted for you? Put your parents to aside. Is this what you want for yourselves? I think you walked in blind. I really think you walked in blind. And you're still blindfolded. People are just beating the hell out of you. You don't know what's going on. You're just feeling the pain coming from everywhere. You can feel the lumps that you're beaten up. I ask you to take off that blindfold and have a look at what's going on around you. Shake yourself to sense, ladies and gentlemen. Do yourselves a favor, honestly. If you define yourself by all the things that you have in your possession, please remember that you are just a chitta. Let me share something with you. This is a very simple, practical thing that you can do to really get to grips with what you really are and what you're not. Think about something that you like. Think about your watch. Just think about your watch for a second. When you think about your watch, now your watch comes to your mind, right? And you can think to yourself that you have a watch. You are a watch owner. You own a watch. Until I reminded you of that, you had no sense of it, did you? Until I reminded you about your watch, you had no sense of it. You were probably listening to this sermon, maybe you're thinking about work because I was talking about work, right? So the watch, it doesn't matter whether it's a Rolex or just one you got from Pamanu, 100 or 100 million, right? Regardless of how expensive your watch is, it was not in your mind, was it? What was it on? Your body. Is your body you? Then is the watch you? No. So what do you really have? If I ask you now, what do you own? You'll say, I have a watch, Swami, it's a very expensive watch. I have a collection of watches. And if you have an antique collection of watches, I have an antique collection of watches. You only have something when you think about it. Until then, it's not even in your domain. Because you are just a chitta. If you were someone who actually lived for 80 long years, then all those things that you acquired in the period of 80 years could legitimately be considered yours. Hear me out. Try and make sense of what I'm trying to explain to you. If you were actually an individual, an entity, a person who lived for 80 years, okay? If you were a person who lived for 80 years, then all those things you acquire in those 80 years could legitimately be called yours. Fair and square? Yeah? If you were an individual who lived for 80 years. But are you? What are you? You're just a chitta. If you're just a chitta, and a chitta is the product of contact, then you are simply what you see in this moment. You are simply what you hear in this moment. That's what you are. What happened to the Rolex then? Are you a businessman? Is that what you are? A businessman? Are you a proud car owner? See, earlier on, didn't someone come and make an announcement? Until then, where were those cars? You're thinking about something else. I'm talking about something else right now. I know, you're thinking complications, Swami, now so we get it. Yeah? Because who doesn't have a car doesn't have to worry about a car. So I don't have to worry about a car. Then that's not my car. The one that we come in is not my car. It's a car that I use. Someone offered it. It's a car, not my car. When I go, I'm not going to take it with me. So it's not mine. Right? But when someone made an announcement, okay, I'm talking about something else. When someone came in here and made the announcement, the gentleman came with the announcement, At that time, you were reminded about the car. Until then, where was the car? It was in the car park. Right? But was that car in your possession? If you were the one who bought the car, if you were the same person that bought the car, I can understand that the car is yours. Okay? If that were true, you'd always be thinking about the car. Let's say 10 years back you bought your car. If that is so, and the same person lives on today, the one who was there 10 years ago, then you would always be thinking about the car. But you weren't, were you? Not until they made the announcement. At that moment, the sermon stopped. And then each of you started checking out to hear, listening out to whether they're going to call your number plate. And while you were listening to your number plate being called, or the number plate being called, you were thinking of your car in your mind, whether you had parked it somewhere, maybe that is where there is the problem and you might have to walk down there and move it. You were thinking about the car. Until then, there was no car. Until then, there was no car because you are just what you think. If you don't think about the car, there's no car in your world. Show me a world other than the chitta. Can you point to me where your world is? Where's your world? If this is your chitta at this moment, okay? If this is the chitta at this moment, show me your world. Point at your world for me. This is your chitta, but there's a car. You have a car in the car park. There's a car in the car park, and this is your chitta. And in this chitta, you are looking at a tree. Okay? You're looking at a tree right now, and your car is in the car park. Your car is in the car park. Your wife is at home. Your children are at school. Okay? The dog's in the kennel. Money's in the bank. Okay, and your sunglasses there on your head. Okay? And you're looking at a tree. You got me? You're looking at a tree. While all of this is also true. Okay? Point at your world for me for a second. You tell me whether I'm hot or cold. Is this your world? Is this your world right now? This one? This one? This one? This one? What is your world right now? Just this. So what are your possessions right now? You have a sight, that's it. Actually, you don't have a sight, you are sight. At that time, you are sight. You understand why I say that? Not you have a sight, you are sight. Why do I say that? Because the mind does not have perception, the mind is perception. Okay? So then, this is your world right now. So if this is your world right now, ladies and gentlemen, why does it matter what else you have? None of these things are really relevant because they're not in your world right now. They're not yours right now. Isn't the sense of belonging something that is created in the mind? Isn't the sense of belonging something that is created in the mind? Whose pen is this? If you didn't know, what would you have to do? If you didn't know, let's say you walked into this room and there's a bag on a chair, a handbag, and we don't know whose it is, or you don't know whose it is, what would you do at that time? Ask, right? Why would you have to ask if belonging is part of the object? If belonging is an attribute of the object, you wouldn't have to ask, would you? You should be able to just look at the object, just observe the object and work out who it belongs to. The fact that you have to ask implies what? That it does not actually belong to anyone. That belonging is merely an emotion, a perception. So then the objects don't have a characteristic of belonging. Do you understand that, everyone? Excellent. So if these objects have no sense of belonging, do you think your money thinks that it belongs to you? When you're shortchanged and you don't know that you're shortchanged, you start walking out the shop. What does the money do? Hey, take me. Does it do that? What about your dog? Do you think your dog knows that it belongs to you? You think it does. Your dog will respond to anyone that's prepared to feed it. Otherwise, you teach your dog, Kukka, you must only respond to me. When I call you, you shall come. When I ask you to go, you will go. When I ask you to sit, you shall sit. Right? Your name might be Tommy, but only when I call you, Tommy, should you come. You must not respond to anyone else. Do you understand, Kukka? And if the dog accepts what you say, no one else in this world will be able to command your dog. No one else will be able to call Tommy. Tommy doesn't respond to Tommy. Tommy responds to food. Because Tommy knows when he goes wherever the word Tommy comes from, he's going to be fed or petted, right? Or rubbed under his chin or whatever. He knows that that's where he's going to get some treatment. He's going to feel special. That's why Tommy responds. Not because he loves you. It's just like every other dog at home. I mean, the other dogs are, what? Why are you laughing? I meant the other. You have several dogs at home, right? I was talking about those dogs. It responds to the hand that feeds it. It responds to the voice that feeds it. That's what it responds to. Then, your children. When your children are busy playing with themselves, busy playing a computer game or whatever, do you think they're thinking about you? If they thought about you, would they leave the dishes in the sink for you to wash them? If your children truly thought about you, would they leave the dishes in the sink for you to wash? Or would they not? Would they wash them? They'd wash them, right? They're not thinking about you. Even while they're eating, they're not thinking about what they're eating. They're watching the cricket on the TV. Or they're doing their homework, or they're watching the computer game, right? Or doing whatever. They're not thinking about you. So only when he or she thinks that you are his or her mother or father, do they think about you. At other times, you are no one to them. No one. Absolutely no one. Please understand that. Because belonging is only a fabrication of the mind. And unless the mind fabricates it, it doesn't exist. So when the child's playing with his best friend, he's not thinking about you. Isn't that why you have to keep calling them and asking, Buddha, what time are you going to come home? It's already 8. I mean, don't trouble me. I'm just playing with my friends, Like, give me another 5 minutes, another 10 minutes, another 50 minutes. And they just keep on asking for extensions because they're not thinking about you. And you can be sure, after half an hour, you're going to have to call them again. And you said you were going to come? Oh yeah, who are you again? Amma, right? Yes. Why? Because when they're with their friends, they're not thinking about you. Because to think that you are, or they are your children, they have to fabricate that in their mind. But this mind is busy looking at a tree. A mind that's looking at a tree only knows about the existence of the tree, ladies and gentlemen. So all these possessions that you have, they amount to nothing. How much money do you have? What is your net worth? Really? No, really, what is your net worth? Are you going to make a list of all these things that belong to you? Your antique car collection, your watch collection, the money in the bank, and the gold in the whatever, the vault, and the prices of your shares in the stock market. You're going to add up all those things and you're going to tell me, Swaminath, this is my net worth, I'm worth $1 billion. Is that your net worth? Says who? Says a chitta looking at a tree. This chitta was only born out of contact between sight and eye. You have nothing to your name. Understand that. This saying, you come alone, you go alone, is not just a saying. It is not just talking about a lifetime of 8 years. It's talking about an absolute truth right now. See, you come alone, you go alone. Don't be fooled to think that you have all these possessions around you and with you. Don't be fooled to think that the money that is in the bank is yours, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be even fooled to think that the money in your hand is yours or the money in your pocket is yours. It's not. If your pocket is not you, and the pair of trousers to which that pocket is attached to is not you, and the body that those pair of trousers dresses up is not you, then what is you? What do you actually own? But then, why do you think that you are so much more than you are? Why do you feel that you have so much more than you do? That is because, although you are only a chitta, this chitta runs on a bed of ignorance. Be embarrassed, be ashamed. This is what's going on. If you are someone who thinks that you have all these things and they are your possessions, you belong to them and they belong to you, you're as crazy as the people in the mental asylum. Only one, just a little bit different. Because you can think of many things, whereas they cannot think of many things, they're always only thinking about one thing. That's where the difference is. You think about many things. When you're vexed about your children, who are you thinking about? Children. When you're vexed about your car, what do you think about? When you're vexed about your car, what do you think about? The car. What about the children then? Children out. I don't care about children. Now think about the car. I can give you evidence to this. If it's a new car, you just bought the car home. You know what I'm about to say. Yes, you are an intelligent audience. And you have plenty of experience. So I don't even need to light the wick, I just have to show you the flame. Right, the rest happens. But I'll continue for the sake of completeness. You've just bought home a new car. Right? Before you went to the showroom to buy the car, you were playing with your children, kissing them, hugging them, doing what all good dads do. Right? But I'm going to get us a new car. Okay, when you come, we can go a nice round in the car. Okay? Don't you want to see Tati's new car? We bring Tati's new car. Just wait, okay? Until then, you go and do your work. And when Tati comes home in the car, we're going to nice round, Puta, okay? Says the dad who loves his child. So now the child waits to get into the father's car when the father comes home. So his father goes to the showroom, buys the car, and all the way back home, and on the way there, what is he thinking about? His car. And the moment he opens the door of the car, that's a moment, isn't it? Go back to the showroom. When you actually bought that car, you remember the day when you opened that door. And that sweet smell of new car just flooded your senses. And you took a deep breath in, like when you go to the doctors and the doctor says, breathe in deeply. Like when you were at the doctors. Remember that day? Yeah, and then you didn't sit down in your car. You put your bottom on the seat, and then what did you do with your feet? You dusted your feet. Inside or outside? Outside. What about your putana, the child at home? Car. Because right now what's in there? Car. Then you turn your feet in, right? Turn around, get your feet in, and then the better half, she walks in the other. Usually you do the curtsy, right? You open the door, let her in, right? Let us in, and you close the door gently. But this is not the time for that, because now what is new? Not the wife. She is now old goods. Now what is new? The car is new. Right? So in order of priority, what's important in your life? What comes top now? Car. Car is now up there. So she gets into the car. But she might not feel so attached to the car because maybe she's not into cars that much. So if she forgets to dust her feet, there are, in life, ladies and gentlemen, there are moments that you will remember for the rest of your life. Moments that will haunt your relationship for the rest of your life. So, ladies, when you are invited to sit in a man's car, and if it's a new car, please remember, dust your feet before you get in. Otherwise, that will hang over your relationship. And every time something comes up, like, why haven't you washed the dishes? Why can't you wipe the table after you take the plate? You leave the watermark. Why is the tea, when you leave the tea, there's a mark. Why can't you use the, what do you call it? The coaster. Yes, why can't you use that? When you ask such questions, the response is going to be, remember that day when you got into the car? So he will remind you about this. So do remember. Okay, so then she gets into the car. And then you will listen out to how gently that door is going to be closed. These are those moments that will be forever etched in your memory. So how should that door be closed? Softly. Softly. Say it softly. Softly. That's how it should be closed. Because now actually, wife is not here. You don't even care about the wife now. I mean, if you're not careful, you might even drive home and then wonder, where did she go? And then the salesman will have to bring your wife home. So you left something at the showroom. Truth or not? Of course. Because right now, there's only one thing that's center stage in your life. That is the car. Nothing else. And then if on the way home, now you're driving the car back home, if the wife says, shall we pull up at a restaurant or something? We can buy something we can eat on the way. She wants some fast food. Typically, what would a man say to her offer fast food? Don't you even have to ask, or don't you even have to ask, is the typical response. But now we are in a new car. Today she makes the offer. Shall we stop at that Donald's place? What's the answer? We are at the temple. If it were possible, you would ask her to observe the precepts before she got into the car. No, but seriously, no. Joking to aside, right? This is what's going on in your life, ladies and gentlemen. At that time, it doesn't matter that you went after your father-in-law 1,000,000 times to get him to say yes, to take his daughter's hand in marriage, or the many thousands of times you had to go looking for her, waiting for her, calling her, missing her calls, right? Sending those love letters written in your blood, right? It doesn't matter all that effort that you put into to get her. What's more important now is what? The car. To the point that even if she says, you know what, I was about to tell you, right, it's not you, it's me. That's what they always say, right? It's not you, it's me. I don't think this relationship is working out. Later, honey. Car. Because right now, that's what the mind is vexing about. Think about this. When you're in those situations, think about it. Because don't see a husband. I tell the wives here, don't see a husband. See a mind that vexes. Whenever you do that, that is a prayer that you make. You can even think of that as a time that you worship Swaminathan. A time when you're at home, outside of these four walls, where you contemplate. That is you worshipping me. I'd much rather that. Much, much rather that than you coming and kneeling down here. Because this just gives me nothing. It might fill your heart, but what I look for is someone who is diligent with their practice. Someone to whom it makes me feel was worthwhile making all this effort, giving the Dhamma to. Someone to whom it makes me feel worthwhile coming all the way from Ingiriya. 1.5 hours here, 1.5 hours there, 2 hours in traffic. Every Sunday. It's worthwhile me doing that if at those moments you contemplate. That's why I say, don't see a husband. Don't expect at that time for him to be thoughtful towards you. That's an unfair expectation, because this is not a mind that vexes for the association or presence of his wife. This is a mind that wants to be alone with his car. See that, observe that, understand that. So this is the remedy for all arguments, disagreements, household problems, relationship problems. If you can, what do they always say? Try and understand the other, right? Understand to be understood. One of the 7 habits of highly effective people. First understand, then be understood. If you want to be a highly effective person, if you want to be a highly intellectual, intelligent person, if you want to be an enlightened person, look, observe with insight. Don't expect your husband to do the courtesies, open the door for you, get you to sit down like his little princess, right? And stop on the way home and buy you nice stuff and call you honey and lovey and all that, because right now it's not you that is on center stage in his mind. He just wants the car. He and his car, that's his world right now. So much so that if you bump into someone along the way, on the way home, you're going to get out of the car, first go and check the car is okay. And then you will see whether the person that got hit is injured. Always understand this. There are no individuals here. There are minds that vex and minds that don't vex. An arahant is not an individual. An arahant is a mind that doesn't vex. So when you drive back home, now the little one is waiting to go on a nice round in the car with daddy, right? So if he comes running now with muddy feet, not even muddy feet, dusty feet, just say dusty feet, and then he gets into the car and he puts his feet on the dashboard. What is the response? What do you expect? What do you think the response is going to be? Puta, like that? No. No puta then. This is why later on you regret. See, this is how regrets work as well. At the spur of the moment, when you're in the heat of things, you're vexing about something, not the other. But later on, that vexation has now been settled. Now you're thinking about the other person, at whom you might have directed harsh words, said harsh words. Now you're thinking about that person, and now you're thinking, I shouldn't have said like that. I shouldn't have spoken like that. Why do you think about that now? Why are you being remorseful? It's because then, who are you vexed about? That individual and the relationship that you have with them. How selfish people are. It's all about what's in it for me. Let me put it in no uncertain terms. People will care about you. People will care about you when it is in their interest to do so. Sorry. People will care about you when it is in their interest to do so. Even if it goes as far as charity, if it is not done with insight and wisdom, people will give you something for charity if it is in their interest to do so. Perhaps they expect a smile from you, or maybe a thank you from you, or maybe for you to sing praises about them and how good and kind and generous they are. Or maybe go and tell other people how good they are and they have been to you. Expectations. You can't expect anything else because we are talking about a mind that is vexed. Don't trust a mind that is laden with ignorance. Whether that mind works in you or works in another person, don't trust it. That's why you cannot be trusted, not by me. You can't trust yourself. Can you always trust yourself to do the right thing? There's a question. There's a question to drink over, right? What's the saying in Sinhalese? Yeah, that one. Huh? There's a question to drink over. Do you trust yourself to always do the right thing? In every situation? No, you don't. Why not? Because you know you won't do the right thing. Because you are a victim of ignorance and vexation. It matters less what the situation demands of you. What matters more is how vexed you are about something or the other. And that is why people have regrets. So, what is you? Who are you? This is just a mind I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you. All this while I was explaining the mechanism of a mind, not you. The same causes in another body would just be another mind. Take those causes and plug it into another body, it's just another mind. Take those causes and plug into another body, it's just another mind. So this you, where did that guy come from? It's because of a need to experience a self, which spawns out of ignorance and attachment, for a sense of identity, for a sense of separation, for a sense of uniqueness. When the mind cries for that and weeps for that and longs for that, ladies and gentlemen, what happens? The mind fabricates a sense of self. Where there was no self that came from passa, there's a self now, or a sense of self that generates out of ignorance and attachment. So now that sense of self straddles your mind, and from there on, it hijacks you. Now you're under hijack. Therefore, now you're at its mercy. Once ignorance takes over, you are a completely different animal. Seriously, you are a completely different animal once ignorance takes over. Can I ask you a question? Can you record everything you do throughout the course of a day and show it to your mother and father? Leave Swami University aside. Everything you do within the day, right? Can you put it on record throughout the day? Regardless of which day it is, so you can't pre-plan yourself, right? Today I'm going to live a holy life and my parents are going to be very proud of me. Not those days, at random. Let me put it this way. Without your knowledge, we have someone install a CCTV camera in and around your house. Without your knowledge. Okay? Then I talk to you and say, Madam, Sir, I have 3 weeks worth of CCTV footage of things that you've been doing at home over the last 3 weeks. Can I show it to your parents? Can I show it to you, Guru Hamdru? If at this point you have to say, can I watch it first? In case there are bits that I would like to edit out. Don't worry, we won't watch you, doing your usual, relieving yourself of your physical vexations. We don't watch you do that. So you go into the washroom, go into the toilet. No, I don't need to watch any of that. But mental vexations. The washroom is there to relieve yourself of physical vexations, not mental vexations. So whenever you relieve yourself from a mental vexation, we have it on camera. I don't think you would want us to show that to your parents. Some of it maybe not even you would want to watch it again. Don't nod to any of this, okay? Just hold a blank face. Don't nod to any of this. But I want you to understand that this is because you have been hijacked. This is what ignorance does to you. You cannot live a transparent life. You cannot live an open life. There are many secrets in your life, many closed rooms in your life, many closed doors, many drawn curtains, many dark rooms in your life. These are all burdens. You know they burden you. You know that they burden you. Not me. You know that they burden you. Why? Why do you do this to yourself? It doesn't have to be like this. Not after you have lived your life for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And you have toiled and labored and worked incredibly hard. If after all that you still have to hide yourself behind closed doors, behind curtains, in dark rooms, because there are things that you do that get the better of you, and there are things that you are not proud of, things that you cannot tell anyone. And that is because you know that in those moments you vexed and you're not proud of that. What I should tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is there's a way out of this burden. You don't have to endure this what feels like a never-ending life sentence. Actually, doesn't life feel like a life sentence to you? Doesn't life feel like a life sentence to you? That's why some people wait for the day that life ends. The day that they can get released from a life sentence. Because one day after the next, one thing after the next, there's always those complications, those problems that you have created for yourself. Because of all this unnecessary you-ness. So my invitation to you, I want from you not the worship that you come and offer here at the end of the sermon. The worship that I expect from you is when you contemplate the Dhamma outside of these four walls. That is the worship that I want from you. Because this does not add any value to me. If anything, it only takes my time. Time to get back to the monastery. And I have a Spanish class, which usually I miss the first half because of the traffic on the way back home. That is not me saying that you shouldn't be. I'm saying that is up to you, what you want to do. But that is not what I want from you. That does not give me anything. It does not give me any job satisfaction. That's a word I've not used in a long time. It doesn't give me any job satisfaction. The only satisfaction that I seek is the knowledge that you practice, you contemplate. Then I know that this effort, this energy, the time that I have to spend away from my teacher is all worth it. So don't be relaxed out there. Here, whatever. If you are relaxed here, it's okay because we are among friends and they will guide you, support you, right? But when you're out there, no one's going to tap on your shoulder and say, hey, practice. Is that what you should be doing right now? No one's going to tap on the other shoulder and say, aren't you angry? Is that what you're supposed to be right now? Did you just get annoyed with that man when he came up and asked you for something? Is that what you're supposed to be right now? Is that what Swaminatha told you to do? No one's there to remind you about that. Maybe you won't remember it until the following Sunday. But that is not what you should have done. When you observe, Sabba Satyesu Metta Asagati. That's when you are reminded of it. So that is what I ask of you. So please bear that in mind. Contemplate, 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 contemplate. You have a big part to play on your journey to salvation. I have a couple of announcements to make before we conclude. So this is from you to you. Theruvan Sannai Swaminatha, a gentle reminder that we have the Panchanisansa Mahapuja next Saturday, the 18th of November. So this has been an event that has been organized by the English sermon audience right from when we had it just at the monastery, and it has continued since then, customary. So it's an open invitation, especially to you, because it is most of you who are going to be organizing that. You're going to be there. You're going to have the opportunity to hold the umbrellas and all that, right? So that is your thing. Make the most of it. Earn the merits. I've explained to you why merits are so important on your journey. So make use of that opportunity. It might also be an opportunity to introduce some others, friends, family to the monastery. Because they may not still be keen to listen to the Dhamma, sit down and listen to a sermon for 2 or 3 hours, but perhaps they might like to rejoice, experience the ambience of the monastery, maybe the merit that we do. So if that is the case, then maybe this can be a segue for them into the Dhamma. So that's next Saturday, the 18th of November. And there's also the Katina Pinkama, which is happening on the 2nd of November, which is a Sunday. Now, usually Sundays, I used to be at the monastery for the Katine, but ever since we started Rajagiriya, I skipped that to come and spend time with you. I'm happy to do that, because again, I take myself where I have a purpose to serve. At the monastery, if Guru Handru is there and the other Swami Nuhansis are there, then to me that does the job. But if I miss this, then that's another week gone without you contemplating the Dhamma. But the choice is up to you. If you would like to visit the monastery on that Sunday, then you can do so. But if there are people who would want to come and have the sermon, then we can do that as well. So how do we decide? Shall I flip a coin? Just toss a coin or something? Because there may be individuals who will find it inconvenient to come to the monastery. Now, this being the Sunday, the night before that, we have the overnight Pirit chanting, which is again customary at the monastery. We have 2 Pirit ceremonies over the year, one on the 31st and the other on the day before Katina. So Katina, as many of you may know, is the culmination of 3 months long practice of a retreat, the rains retreat, which concluded just the last Poya day. And then before the next Poya, we have a Katina ceremony. It is actually not something organized by the monastery, it's organized for the monastery. As monks, we don't have it is not to us to actually organize a Katina, because it is an offering to the Mahasangha. It would make no sense, right? Like we organize a party and then say, come and feed me. So that's not how a Katina works. I think contemporarily it's happening more that Swami Nuances are getting more and more involved in organizing it. But that is, I think, only because few people have the opportunity to actually come to the temple and set aside time and organize themselves, because people are busy. People are busy with this, earning money. So they don't have the time to organize themselves to do that. So I think it has become more customary now that Swami Nuances organize it. But we fortunately have the Punya Bare. So people of the Punya Bare and many of the villages in the Sudamini Sugama, they get together and do most of the organizing along with all of our other devotees. And because everyone comes every Saturday, that also gives people an opportunity to do that. So anyway, on the 1st, which is the Saturday, we have the overnight Pirit chanting, which will happen just after Guru Hamdul finishes his sermon. Not at 7, but he'll finish early on the day. I think around 5. And then we start the Pirit chanting. That goes on till the following morning. And then, like, if you remember, give me a show of hands if you were there last year. Ah, nice. So you will be going to the Anagarika Arame, almost the Anagarika Arame. You can't become an Anagarika. You have to become an Anagarika to go to the Anagarika. But you can go close to the Anagarika Arame and then carry the Katina cloth, which will become a robe back at the monastery. So you will carry the cloth in procession, and after it is brought to the monastery, from the moment it arrives, everyone gets together. All of our devotees, they get together, they get to stitch and sew the robe and prepare it and dye the robe, dry it, and then prepare it to be offered to the Mahasangha. So usually what happens is the Sangha gets together as a community and we decide to whom that robe should be offered. At the end of that, there's a Vinaya Karma that happens after that. So all the high ordained monks who had the opportunity to observe the Vas period, they decide to whom that robe should be going to.